Jamie Lynn Thomas, and I'm a certified flower essence practitioner, and I'm here today to talk to you about the history of flower essences, specifically the Bach Flower Essences. So to start to talk about Bach Flower Essences, it's interesting to note that there are sacred geometry in all flowers. And there's a fantastic book that I put the name at the end of the PowerPoint here called The Hidden Geometry of Flowers, Living Rhythms, Forms, and Numbers. And this is a picture that was taken from that text. And if you, later on in the text, they overlay the flower of life pattern over the aster flower. Now, some of you may be able to see that image in the middle of the flower itself. And I invite you to start to notice this around you in other flowers. What other geometrical images do we see? So in flower essences, there's a couple of elders that we need to make note of. So Hippocrates, noted the father of medicine, was one of the first to say that disease was not the punishment of the gods, but it was a product of your environment or the food that you were eating. It was other factors besides just the gods, the omnipotent forces, whom we had no ability to change things ourselves. So Hippocrates really was a great father of medicine, for he really gives many different disciplines and modalities a beautiful background. Then we have Paracelsus, who was an astrologist and a physician, and he was in the scientific revolution era where they were openly burning books that were giving too much information to the public or too little information, or information that certain societal aristocrats did not want the other parts of society to know about. He was also one of the first to claim that like cures like. So he didn't start all of the homeopathy, but he really was the first to start to bring that into his practice. And then we have Hahnemann, who really was the father of homeopathy. And he was part of the scientific revolution as they took science and melded it into what serves the body. And this is really where like cures like came into play. He also used quite a bit of bloodletting, so part of the scientific revolution was learning of techniques that were not necessarily serving to the body. And sometimes bloodletting can be serving, and sometimes it can't. So a good example of that would be hemochromatosis, where too much iron gets into the blood, and by bloodletting or giving blood, you can lower the amount of iron in the blood. So there's one example. And then succussion, where it enhances the remedy preparation by potentizing it. Now this is done by usually smacking the glass bottle with a whole bunch of product in it for roughly 108 times to get the water all bubbly and frothy. And then with Edward Bach himself, he was born in 1886 and he ended up dying in 1936. He was an immunologist, a bacteriologist, a pathologist, and a physician. He founded the nosodes, which were homeopathy that was based off of the fecal bacteria. And what was interesting is that there's 7 nosodes, and there's also 7 categories that the Bach flower essences are put into. We'll go over those individually one by one in the following webinars. He was a thriving medical doctor. This man he was given multiple degrees. He had at least 3 different degrees that he received, and he held many different positions at multiple hospitals in London. And in 1917, he ended up suffering from severe abdominal cancer, which he was not expected to live through. His family was called over to say their goodbyes, and he was given 3 months to live. Well, little did medical science know that he was going to live for multiple years after that, well over the 3 months. In 1928, he started making the first flower essences, and he started using these according to personality types, which we'll also discuss in some of the following webinars. He started with 7, 12, and then the last 19 remedies were added to develop all 38 Bach flower remedies before his death. What was interesting about him is not only was he this intuitive, smart gentleman who could blend medicine with esoteric and alternative thoughts, but he was also very worried about his work getting out to people who would not be able to understand it. So he ended up having a secretary burn all of the work that was what he coined as kind of above the head of our current society. So the books that he published before his death and the papers that he published are the remnants of a man who really thought he was in a place of ascension and changing what the world could be and is at this point in time. And in this new era of the new earth, we're kind of seeing that, especially after the 2012 region, and really here in 2014 are we starting to see this come to life, where flower essences are so important because we're really starting to see that emotions are the root of disease, which is what Edward Bach saw years and years ago, that emotions were part of the root of disease, and that if we could work through the emotions, that the root of disease would dissolve and that the person would become happy. So what is an essence? What's really nice here is getting to see that a flower essence is infused with the vitality or the life force of pristine, beautiful flowers. That vitality is then transferred into the water, which acts as an energetic medium to imprint that vibrational pattern from the particular plant into the water itself. And then we end up stabilizing it with brandy so that it will not degrade. Now, Glenn Cradon and Deborah Cradon, the authors of Floral Accupuncture, which you'll see later, took some of the first pictures of the energetic imprint that we're seeing in flower essences. So we're seeing an energetic impregnation of the flowers into the water itself. Now, how are essences made? There's two methods for making flower essences, and one is the sun method, which uses fresh plant matter, the most pristine flowers, water in a bowl, and let it sit in direct sunlight. And we usually do this until the flowers are wilting. Now that's what you saw on the previous slide here on the right hand side was actually an essence being made. The second method is boiling, which is what Bach did for the third group of the 19 essences that he developed. And he said that these flowers needed the boiling to transform. So he really believed that to truly transform, you must literally move into another form of being, having a type of ascension. And we can see this in ourselves and our patterns as we use essences. And directly for practitioners who use it with their clients, you can see this in a very linear and transformative nature. some of the terminology that we use when we're talking about flower essences. And we'll talk about a mother essence or a mother bottle. Now that's the pure essence, taken right out of the bowl, and it's mixed half with brandy. So half of the pure essence, you have 1 cup of the pure essence. You would take 1 cup of brandy, and you would mix it together, and then you would bottle it, and you would label it the mother essence. Now, to create a stock bottle, this is what you buy in the store. You would take 1 dropper full, roughly 30 drops of the mother essence, and then fill the rest of your bottle up with brandy to stabilize it. And then your dosage bottle, what we end up giving to the client or to ourselves, is 1 to 4 drops out of the stock bottle into a bottle of spring water or hydrosols, whatever that you're using. You can use a touch of brandy or glycerin to go ahead and stabilize it and preserve it for longer periods of use. I highly recommend doing this if you're going to be seeing your clients or working with yourselves with dosage bottles any longer than 2 weeks. So succession, this is what we were talking about in the past slides about hitting it on the palm to potentize. Now, some people believe in doing this, some don't. I tend to not do succession. Succession, this is spelled wrong, Succussion. So what principles are behind essences? Now, there used to be a couple of them, and the main one that we know now from science is that quantum physics is really telling us that the world, the universe, and everything in it is a type of coalesced energy that is really perceived as a solid, but in reality is just an energy held together by different bonds. It's energy that is on a vibrating waveform. Now, in our minds, we're the ones that make the separation that create this linear reality, that energy, that we are physical beings, that we're held in this particular physical body. So I like to think of Star Trek. I'm thinking of Star Trek The Next Generation with Jean-Luc Picard and Wesley, the doctor's son, who Wesley Crusher met this traveler, an alien, who knew about quantum physics and that the energy of the universe was a vibrating waveform. And he thought about traveling to some distant location in the universe, and just like that, faster than the speed of light or warp speed, they were there with God alone. Now, this is what we're seeing getting proven by our science. And Albert Einstein, who really gave us this formula about quantum physics, E equals mc squared, is energy, matter, and the speed of light are all interrelated. They're all one. And we're really getting to see the theory of relativity being proven now in this time and in this place. This is super exciting stuff here. And I suspect that in the next couple of years, as we figure out what's going on with the EMC squared and quantum physics, that we will actually be able to start to really measure what is happening with flower essences. I had a teacher, Barbara Salage, who coined the term where intention flows, energy goes. And that's so true because we see this all over the place. And with quantum physics, we're getting to see that this is true in harmonization. The body, mind, and soul connection are behind the flower essences. And Bach said that if you allow them to become happy, then they will become well. Harmonic resonance and tuning forks for resonancy. You may remember this from physics class. An exercise where you take 2 different tuning forks and you put them on one end of the room and another end of the room, and you hit one tuning fork and it goes to a certain hertz number, and then all all of a sudden the other fork on the other side of the room starts vibrating at that same resonancy. This is how the flower essences work. And they work by really coming in and dissolving the imbalance that is seen and usually expressed by the person in their description of how they're feeling and doing. And then it's replaced with balance, neutral energy, and clearer vitality, especially vitality on calling. Why do essences work? They really work with the reflection of our shadow selves. They help highlight and give support for the stuff that we don't want to look at or that we see but we just don't know how to tackle it. And these are the parts of ourselves that we want to change, to make better, to become more balanced and harmonic with the rest of the world. We look at water as a universal carrier of vibrational imprints, and the number of possibilities that water can generate and transform into are really endless. And we see this in chemistry. That's why water is one of our universal components used when we are doing chemistry or in any other type of chemical activity out in the world. What is really neat is that we get to see the transmittance of the flower's vibrational imprint into the water, and this is coming from the sun. So the sun's using its radiation to basically transform and degrade the plant, changing it from one form to another, basically taking it from perfect to wilted, devoid of life. This is really what Bach saw as how flower essences work. They take something that is devoid of life and they bring it back to a more perfect state of being, that potential, that vital potential that's there within everybody. What's really neat about flower essences is that you can see the energetic imprint seen by Kirlian photography. And we're getting to also see it with other types of photography as well, which is that photo you saw earlier from Deborah Cradon. Really, by using essences according to indication and imbalance with the acute or personality traits, the person's keys, their soul imbalances, something that they'll be working on for their whole life, transform and ascend, can really be restored by using appropriate frequency energies. So resonating to another place. And there's another physics experiment where you can place sand on a drum and then apply a sound where it moves the sand all over, and depending upon different sound waves or vibrational patterns, the sand will turn into different images and come together and separate and create very interesting patterns just through sound itself. So something that is really neat that we've got to see in, I believe, Japan through Masaru Emoto's work and his book, Messages in Water, he took all different types of kind of polluted waters from local areas and then pristine waters and started taking these micrographic images of them and then started playing with the types of waters with prayers and thank yous and images of thoughts of being good or bad or love and appreciation. And then these were the pictures that he saw after the transformation of doing the prayers or saying a thank you. This is what the water molecules did after receiving this energetic vibration with him just meditating with this water. So Kirlian photography shows right here oak, the flower essence oak, and how it looks underneath a Kirlian photo. And then we take ordinary tap water and then just energy water, which is somebody just thinking positive thoughts, and you get to see the transformation. In energy water, the purple starts to come out just a little bit, transforming, becoming brighter. The whole surface area becomes brighter. And then in the oak, it becomes very distinct in how it looks in its flower essence. If you're into the Kirlian photography, I invite you to check out the book, The Encyclopedia of Bach Flower Therapy by Mechthild Scheffer. I have the resource at the end of this lecture, so if you're interested in it, feel free to check it out. Those pictures are quite intriguing. Here's some pictures of the human bioelectric field, at least what we know of it now. And we start to learn a little bit more every day as people are working in this quantum field that's transforming the human energy field. And it used to revolve only around the chakra zone. Now we're noticing that the heart has its own type of bioelectric field, and that the head itself, the pineal gland, is creating another type of energy field, as well as the chakra zones, and then all the fields together. So these are really interesting, and you can go into all kinds of exploration with these. So one day we hope that we'll be able to fully measure the bioelectric field. Here's a picture of the heart bioelectric field and its torus that it creates. Now, what's really intriguing about it is that it's 100 times stronger electrically and up to 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain, just the organ itself, let alone what it does energetically to the entire body. So if you're really interested in wanting to learn more about the heart space and the actual and resources to utilize heart-based thinking, heart-based resources, heartmath.com is a fantastic resource. So what we know of the uses of flower essences now is that you can use them internally, taking droppers of them from a dosage bottle, externally in a spritz or spray, in a lotion, either applied by yourself or applied by a practitioner through a gentle type of massage therapy. Or you could do compression to the pain zone or acute imbalance. Now, what this is not putting force on the body, but it's actually using a compress. You're taking hot water with a few drops of the flower essence in there, taking fabric like muslin cloth, gently wringing it out, placing it on the pain zone or the area of acute imbalance, and then vacuuming out pain out of that area, or imbalance for that matter. Floral Accupuncture, where you can apply the 38 Bach Flower Essences to meridian zones and acupuncture points along the body. Now what's really nice about this is that there are no needles needed, and that you do not have to have an acupuncturist license to practice this type of therapy. It may behoove you to have a body worker's license so that you can do touch therapy, as you will be entering into the body field. It's not just energetic or vibrational medicine. Then you have environmental uses. So you can cleanse the space, you can uplift the space. There's garden and plant uses. I use it when I transplant my plants or when I have a bug infestation. There's also animal uses for the Bach Flower Essences and multiple different books available on the topic. What we're really finding is that with the Bach Flower Essences especially, that there is this deep body-mind connection. And the most prevalent book on the topic at this point in time is the new Bach Flower Map by Dietmar Kramer. And it has a whole bunch of pictures that go through each one of the books and detailed descriptions about each one of the 38 Bach Flower Essences. and this is just a German view showing all the different zones. And you'll notice that there's very small areas, square zones of the body that you should really know your anatomy to be able to apply the flower essences according to the map, because right next to, say this is right here on the arm is oak. Well, right next to it on the shoulder could be vervain, and you want to be real careful because each one of the cutaneous zones, the skin zones, have a very distinct energetic resonance with certain Bach flower essences. So that's why it's nice when you're doing very specific pain vacuuming to watch the zones that you're using. That's why working with a body worker or another practitioner who knows the anatomy of the body would be very helpful. And then Floral Acupuncture, which we talked about. This is Deborah Cradon's book that I highly recommend if you're interested in doing this. This one's a lot easier because you can just apply it to the zones on the body. And she has really nice pictures that walk you through it step by step. And then here's some book resources: the Dietmar Kramer, the Floral Acupuncture, the Hidden Geometry of Flowers, and then here's some beautiful beginner Bach books that I suggest for the beginning student. I hope you enjoyed the history of Bach Flower Essences, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next series talking about the 7 categories of the Bach Flower Remedy.